You're listening to the Tooth Sleuth Podcast, all about the business of dentistry, hosted by yours truly, Greg Essenmacher, a fixed full arch dental expert and founder of G&A Consult, speaking with industry leaders on the dental landscape from their perspective. At G&A, we specialize in transforming full arch dental practices, teaching, coaching, and training teams to deliver an exceptional patient experience, from that first call to delivering final smiles. Whether you're a practice owner, a DSO executive, or a regional leader looking to expand your full arch program, boost same-store sales, or unlock the true profitability of full arch cases, we've got you covered. Ready to see how full arch can elevate your practice? Visit the show page or book a discovery call today. Let's turn your potential into results. Welcome back to the Tooth Sleuth Podcast, everyone. Greg Essenmacher, your host. I hope you know who I am by now, but if you're a first-time visitor, welcome. And don't forget to like, click, share, subscribe, all the good things. Today on the show, ladies and gentlemen, men and women, boys of all ages and sizes, Addison Freeman. Why does that matter to you? Well, I got to tell you, he has some solutions for those of you who are looking to transition into digital dentistry, and it's a solution that really matters. So, Addison, why don't you just say hi to my listening audience, and let's start there, and then I'm going to drill down into everything that you have and know so that they can learn from you.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on, Greg. Good to be here and excited to talk through it all.
Awesome. So the founder of Incisive Dental, a son and grandson of dentists. So we know how you got involved in the industry. I was going to say, I usually ask guests, how did you get involved in dentistry? So I'm guessing child labor laws don't exist and they put you to work in the dental clinic. Is this what happened?
That's absolutely right. Worked the front desk. Anytime my father had to go in, being a kid, and he'd get paged for an emergency, I'd go in, I'd end up being his dental assistant. So people will ask, how long have you been in dentistry? And I always kind of joke, I'm 39, so I guess 39 years.
Yeah.
Father's
the time I could stand.
Yeah. And then my grandfather actually helped found a dental school in the United States as well with Toro University. So I also grew up not just going to the office, but also walking the halls of Columbia, where my father and grandfather both taught. So I've seen dentistry from a very early age and in a couple of different facets.
Nice. You said Toro University. Is there another branch in the Vegas area, or do I have that completely wrong? I want to say there's an offshoot. Yes.
They opened the first one at New York Medical College about 10 years ago now. And then just this year, they opened up a second in New Mexico, in Albuquerque.
Oh, that's where it is. Okay, Albuquerque. I knew it was somewhere on my side of the country. You're over in Boston, and I'm west of the Mississippi. I'm out in the Phoenix area. So I knew it was somewhere in the Southwest. It's where I've done a lot of the work when I haven't gone, before I went national with a lot of the dental. And I've been in dental for 18 years. So I knew I knew you, kind of like from Plane, Trains, and Automobiles. I knew you. It's that time of year, too, to start busting out the Christmas movies. So thank you for that. Well, let me ask you, so what was your dental journey, though, other than, suctioning when you were still in diapers? So what was your intentional dental journey?
Well, I went through school thinking I was going to be a dentist, because in my mind, everyone went to high school, then everyone goes to college, then everyone goes to dental school, because that's what I saw. And it was towards the end of my college career that I was like, I'm not really sure this is right for me. And so I walked away from dentistry for quite a while. I ended up going into a couple different versions of management consulting for the better part of 15 years, still in healthcare. I was working with hospitals, pharmaceuticals. And it was only in the last 3 to 5 years, really, that I said, okay, there's still something here. And practically what it was me seeing a lot of the innovation that was happening in these sort of new wave organizations on the physician side, working with specialists within the hospital walls, but also in private practices, and saying, there's something here that can be translated back to dental, and always thinking through the lens of, would this help my father? Would this help my grandfather and all their friends? And that's what really led me to start Incisive.
And, what you mentioned, I think, is so critically important, because in dental, what I've noticed over the 18 years is it's very siloed. And those of us who actually look to other industries and say, what can we bring from other industries into dental, and how can we apply it, and what are the parallels? That's really where the innovative breakthroughs happen. right? Not this fear of, oh, well, look what happened in medical and all the consolidation and that's coming to dental and, oh, the big bad wolf is coming. I think it's very minimalistic rather than the law of abundance, and look at what great innovations, because innovation has really accelerated in dental is at least what I'm seeing in the last 5, 7, 8 years, where before it felt like, man, like it comes to dental 20 years after the rest of the world gets it. Have you seen that? And how is that applying in what you're trying to accomplish here with Incisive?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's exactly right. And look, there's good and bad on both sides of it, right? Like, I don't think anyone is itching for medical insurance style to come into dental.
Right.
I think everyone's happy
Don't,
with the way
please
things
don't.
are.
Not in full arch, not for G&A
Exactly.
consult and our clients in coaching and consulting. Say
No
no,
one
no,
wants
no.
that. No one wants that. But my journey here was, if I think about the days that I was in pharma consulting, I started out on the commercial side where they do some things really, really well. They prime their audience unbelievably well. And then I went into the clinical trial side of pharma where they really didn't do those things. And it's sort of interesting when you can look at a single industry and see one side of the coin does it so well and the other side doesn't. And so as I took those lessons learned from commercial pharma into clinical trial pharma or research, and then coming into dental and saying, hey, I can do the same thing again. I can take all the best learned lessons from a really mature and very innovative organization or group, and say, how can I apply those lessons over here? I think that's for the betterment of all.
And when you look at that commercial side of pharma and how well they do, right? We see it, out there on the TV, on the airwaves, and really go to market in the spike, right? And then it kind of like fizzles and drains out, if you will. I have some personal experience with clinical trials in pharma and the difficulty of getting the right, accurate, candidates, guinea pigs, into their
Yeah.
trials. So I am a longtime sufferer from migraines, right? We're talking, this goes on more than a decade, and we're talking the 6 to 8 to 10 blinding migraines in a month, and a sufferer and tried everything that was on the market. And this goes back to, oh gosh, this would be like 2018. And literally the last day of the year was the 31st of December. And there's a group here that does clinical trials in the Metro Phoenix area and said, get in here. We have something. It's been going really well. And so race to get in. I was like literally the last person to get in this clinical trial. It was a once a month shot for
Yep.
those that have, shot in the arm. And I mean, like literally, like they call people on the phone to try to get them to join clinical trials. It is so antiquated.
Right.
So I hear what you're saying 1,000%. I have to tell you, I got into that clinical trial. And then, of course, you document, like you got to carry around these devices and document everything, right? Because that's critically important for the data
Yep.
they need. It was a lifesaver. I went from having 6 or 8 blinding migraines a month to maybe one, like almost instantly.
Beautiful.
And it actually came to market, and then they did commercialize it. And I won't say the name. Well, Amavig, right? I will, because I knew, because then I was so worried at the end of that year, I can't get that anymore. Because once the clinical trial ends, it takes a while for them to commercialize.
That's
And
right.
then I was like, wait a second, I can't go back to what I was dealing with before. What's going to happen? And luckily, there was another product that came out of the market during that year. It wasn't the shot. It wasn't what became Amavig, but there was another product on the market that luckily for me worked just as well in pill form. And so I still take it to this day, a daily, right? And so I totally get and understand that. So now let's take that and relate that over into dental, right? So what you saw in pharmaceutical, commercial, and clinical, and you took some of those best practices, and now let's start talking about Incisive. I know a little bit about what you do. I know
Sure.
a little bit more than a little bit, but I'm not on the clinical side. I know that one of the biggest challenges, barriers for any of our clients, even at G&A Consult, because we help the full arch clinics and individual practices and group practices to be able to incorporate or accelerate their full arch, their fixed full arch, into generally to GP practices that have thriving practices that want to do more full arch. And most of them at some point in their journey want to transition into digital workflow. But
Yeah.
the thought is, when do I then make that decision of, okay, so it's $20,000, $30,000, $50,000 in equipment. When does it make sense to do that? Then I've got to train my team. And so, they'll ask us all the time, because we're trusted partners. We've helped them start or develop or accelerate their revenue. And so it's that turning point. And I know for me, selfishly, I'm talking about full arch, but I know you have fuller scope, more full scope. What? I don't even know what the phrase is. is.
More
So
than
talk
just
to us
false,
about
but
that.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fullerist. We're going to use the word fullerist on the podcast today. Addison, please talk about that and what that looks like.
Yeah. So, I mean, well, look, high level, what do we do? We've got a bunch of lab partners that we work with. We provide capital equipment, and we can go into more of the details there. But I think the more important piece of this is we think about what we do. We're essentially a workflow company. We are helping implement better workflows, more innovative workflows at all of our practices. And it can be full arch. It can be you want to get more into clear aligners and orthodontics. It can be cosmetics. We kind of don't care what avenue you want to go. I mean, full arch is a huge part of it for us. So, like, I don't want to lose that. But our attitude is we want to talk to every practice we work with and ask them, where are they looking to grow? And then it's a conversation of how do we arm you to do that? And the underpinning to all of it is going to be technology. I mean, that's where it should be starting no matter what you're talking about, in my opinion now. But it's get you that right technology, get you those right partnerships, and then the support to actually implement, which isn't just one hour meeting where we talk about, all right, here's how to use a scanner, move on. It has to be really continuous and slow and digestible. So for us, that's what it is. It's how do we help you do more, be more efficient, and drive value to the practice and to your patients.
And what does that growth strategy look like? So I know you said it's not like the one and done, right? The 1 hour and here you go, good luck, right? Figure it out, right? That reminds me of like how Medic came to market in 2017, 18, which was very disruptive, right? Because Trios like dominated the market at the price point they were. Medic came in at about 40% less. And at least then, now it's not like that, obviously. So let me be very clear. But when they came in, I remember like those that were disparaging it said, yeah, their support is basically, here's a YouTube video, so everybody was kind of like making fun and poking. Look at how it disrupted the industry, right? It brought down the price of the scanners. It changed the landscape, right? It created a premium value and then really like a discount pricing in scanners, and then it leveled off into two pricings of scanners, for iOS scanners. I mean, it changed the landscape. So talk to me a little bit about how you do it if it's not 1 hour and it's more of like that ongoing support as a growth strategist is what I would call what you do.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about what that support looks like.
Yeah. So, to be clear, we're going to provide the scanner free of charge, right? We maintain ownership of it, but we give you full use of it. We're an open system. We have preferred labs within our network, but you're welcome to work with labs that are not part of our network as well. So we're not trying to strong arm you. We think that's really important because that's when we talk about partnership, has to go both ways. And then what it looks like in terms of actually implementing is planning for not just a single training, but multiple trainings, not trying to cram everything in too quickly. And so for a practice that's never scanned before and says, this is my first time going digital, that may be 3 or 4 appointments with the team, starting with nothing but fixed crown and bridge. Let's take it slow. And then the next appointment talking about, hey, what went well, what didn't, maybe even have some in-between appointments where we watch you scan virtually and we can tell you, okay, we need you to go back in, get the buccal a little better, get the lingual, whatever it might be. So we're supporting you both in the session where we're training, but then also in between sessions, come back together a couple of weeks later, you've seeded some crowns, what's been working, what hasn't, where do you have questions? Okay, now let's talk about implant scanning. How do you use a scan body and so on? Let's talk about emergence profiles. Then let's do the same thing again. We'll join you real time again during the week, and we'll then get back together a couple of weeks later. And it's, okay, let's wrap this up into a bundle now. So you've got your implant scanning down, you got your fixed scanning down. What's next? Is it edentulous scanning? Is it ortho simulators and smile designs? Is it any aspect, measuring your occlusal clearance at the time of prep, using all these little tools that are built into these iOSs that are far more advanced than we see most practices taking advantage of today. And so our attitude is, yeah, we'll give you an intraoral scanner, and that's great, right? That's super helpful. But if all we do is replace PVS, we have failed you. There's so much more value to these things. And so it then turns into a conversation of where do you want to be going? Is it ortho cases? Is it cosmetics? Is it full arch? And then let's talk about SOPs that we can help your staff implement to really drive that value and see, additional cases coming in and supporting your patients in the way they need to be supported.
Well, and it's, what I'm hearing you say, it's maximizing the utilization of the equipment itself. It's not just simply here's the equipment and here's how you can transition into. And what I was also hearing, what is this model of like teach, train, and then implementation, which is the key piece. And so often in dental, it's the here, good luck, right? It's not just that, but like, they'll go to training courses, and we see that on the coaching and consulting side, sending treatment coordinators to a course or a training, or they'll have a 1-day training, and then where's the follow-up? Because we know the clinicians don't have the time to hold accountable and to do the follow-up and do the training and the live, like on the field, on the battlefield, in live surgeries, right? Live cases, if you will. And you're talking about the case selection too, which I think is critically important. I like to term it the crawl, walk, run, right?
Absolutely.
So that it's ever increasing cases. So their confidence builds as well, rather than jumping into the deep end, right? Don't take the baby and throw it into the deep end, sink or swim. Well, some believe in that philosophy, but if you can help them to gain confidence along the way, I think that's fantastic. So talk to me a little bit about, some sample like case results or some results that you see with this implementation, because you've been doing this for a while. And I know, there's hundreds of clients that you work with across the country. What are some examples of what realistic expectations and time frame is? Because we talk about that at G&A Consult as well. It's like, look, it's not magic pixie dust. We're not going to wave a magic wand and suddenly you're going to, quadruple your case acceptance in month 1. Because if that's the case, then it's not a process and system that's sustainable. Then we're a barnacle on your ship and we're latched to you. That's not going to be helpful, because then you're not independent. You're not independently able to continue on. So talk to me a little bit about like results or what's realistic for them for expectations.
Yeah, it totally depends on where their starting point is, which is maybe obvious.
Right. Their baseline, right.
Yeah. Where's their baseline? So, I talked about just someone who has never scanned before. We have plenty of people who say, I've scanned a ton. My father was one of these. He said, I've had an iTero in my practice for, 15 years. Okay, well, I don't need to talk to you about optimal scan strategy and like come across the occlusal plane. You've got that. And I don't want to waste their time either. Because let's be clear, that's the most valuable thing they've got. So, we level set with the practice. And as I think about some of our bigger wins, we get plenty of docs who say, I've heard this digital thing, but I'm really scared. I do a lot of knife edge margins or sub G margins, and I just don't think these scanners are going to be able to do it. And our attitude is, okay, let's go slow. So a couple things about our program. Like I said, we're open network. You can use any lab you want. We don't care. I mean, you have minimums with us, but you can still use.
You'd have to, right? Yeah. If not, you wouldn't have a business. You'd have a charity.
Right. But just as important with that is, you are not required to use the intraoral scanner. If you want to use PVS and do a physical impression, you still get credit from that case as long as it goes to one of our labs. And so one of the things we've learned is, we want to help our offices go digital, right? It's better for the patient. 80% of patients say they prefer an intraoral scan over a physical impression. It's better for the office in that there's, P&L implications to it, faster turnaround times. I don't have to probably bore that. But the other piece is not trying to force someone to go too quickly. And if we gave a scanner and said, well, you only get credit for those that you scan, people start going out over their skis and they do things they're uncomfortable with. So by simply saying to a lot of these docs who say, I'm not fully comfortable with this, I know I want to get there, I just need time, we say, let's start with the really easy cases, the slam dunks. So you can see in practical terms, 2 weeks, you'll drop that crown in, it's going to work. And then slowly over time, we can start going towards the more aggressive cases. But they're not thinking, well, I'm going to be on the hook for a bunch of fees because I'm not comfortable enough yet. We never want to be dictating clinical decision-making. I think that's really important to us. So that's the first thing that I think of. And all of these dentists that we've worked with who say, I don't know that I can go digital. I'm too, anxious about it. Let's take it slow. We also only require a 3-month contract. So what we say is 3 months, if you're still not happy and you didn't get yourself over that hump, give it back. We'll be fine. So, we try to make it really easy for our practices. And then when we talk about growth, and tell me if I'm going too long here, but
no, please.
Growth, we have plenty of practices who say, look, we'd love to be doing more clear aligners. We know there's a need here. And then we reinforce that by talking about, far too often if we think about ortho, GPs think of it as cosmetic purely when it's perio, it's occlusion. There's a lot of reasons to do it that are not just cosmetic. 70% of adults would qualify for orthodontic treatment. And most adults want the continuity of care of being with their GP. So we sort of outline this to them and say, everything is here for you to win. If you're not taking advantage of it, it's purely because you're not approaching your patients in the right way. And so then it's redeveloping the systems to say, well, are your hygienists doing full arch scans every other cleaning? If you're doing radiographs on one, do a full arch scan on the next. Pull up ortho simulators, show it to the patient. Do you know that this is what your teeth look like today? Here's what they could look like tomorrow. Not perfect, but this is a directional simulation. Is this of interest to you? Show them the occlusal heat map. Just so you know, you're also grinding here. This is what's happening. You can slowly bring your patient to a place where they're saying, hey, I want to explore this more, versus doctor walking in the room and saying, have you considered doing ortho? Now the patient's in a defensive position. Feels like a power dynamic that's very hard. Is this doctor just trying to sell me? There's a lot of ways you can approach this, and it's far more intricate than that, but that is a very high level where you can install. And we've seen practices go from, I can think of one group we've worked with. They have 8 locations. They went from doing, on average, 6 cases a month to right now they're tracking on average to about 20 to 25 cases a month. So just huge wins, purely by leveraging the technology and leveraging your staff in a workflow that actually hits home for the patient.
Well, and you're talking about a complementary tool that's patient education focused, right? Rather than, like you talked about, which feels sales focused, right?
That's
I
right.
mean, we're all in sales. Let's just talk about it, right? Sales, the S word isn't a bad word, right? If you go out to eat, you go out to dinner somewhere, you don't have reservations. As soon as you approach the maitre d', the front desk, the host, the hostess, if you don't want to sit by the restroom and you want the good table by the window without a reservation and you aren't a Hollywood star or a known name, you sell that opportunity. At least I do, because I want the good table, right? You schmooze them, you're selling the opportunity to try to get a better table. Or if you're married or whatever the case may be, right? A spouse or you're dating, you put your best foot forward, right? You're selling the best parts of yourself to that person at all times. I mean, we're selling ourselves every day. So let's not kid ourselves that, everybody doesn't sell all the time. But in this form, it's much more where you're working with the patients rather than trying to sell something to. So it's with rather than to. I love that. Well, Addison, this is the point of the program. All of my guests play a little something called What the Sleuth is Going On. It's 3 rapid fire questions. First thing that comes to mind. Are you ready to play?
Let's go.
All right. Question number 1. What's the worst bad breath you've ever encountered?
Gotta be my dog.
What kind of a dog do you have?
I have a German Shepherd. It's gross. She just actually came in from the groomer. I just heard her. I'm hoping they brushed her teeth. They probably didn't. She's an 11-year-old. She's an old lady. Stinks. Don't care. I love her to death.
Oh, see, there's love even with stinky breath with the dogs. Right. I love it. Yeah, see, I knew you were a good guy. Question number 2. If you could change one thing about your smile, what would it be?
Oh, this is super easy. I have crowding in the lower, and I would fix that. I've done ortho twice in my life, and I still don't wear my retainer because I'm an idiot. And I will never fix my crowding is the answer. And I've sort of accepted it, but I would love it if I had
that. For anyone who's listening just on audio, head over to YouTube about the 23rd minute. People who do this all the time, just right here in the lower, right here in the lower, they'll pull their lip, they'll show the part of their mouth, and Addison did it. So yeah, you're just like all my other guests that want to show something, they want to show their part of their smile. So yeah, you're just like everybody else. So, yeah, well done. Mm-hmm. Question number 3, last and final. If you could go back and be the inventor of any dental product on the market right now, no, you can't choose your own if you have one, which one would you choose and why?
Inventor? That's a really good question. I think I'd have to go iCam. I think it is just such an unbelievable piece of technology. I'm thrilled that we get to partner with them. They are able to deliver a really complex workflow in a way that is so seamless that it's every time I see it happen, I'm just still like, wow, it's wild.
It's kind of like Christmas morning over and over again every day, isn't it? I mean, it is some pretty cool technology.
And the outcome of it when you see these people that are like, I'm able to smile again. I've heard the stories, and I'm sure everyone listening to this has heard these same stories where someone's like, my kids haven't seen me smile in 6 years. That kind of impact specifically from that product, because boom, it drops right in, passive fit, done, patient walks out. It is life altering and truly a moment. And that's what leads you. It's unbelievable. And without that, you don't get chairside printing and allowing that really high quality, provisional to drop in the way it does. So that's definitely my answer.
It has literally changed like implant dentistry and full arch dentistry in a way that's the exponential that I was talking about before, and just accelerated everything in the space, because I've lived in the full arch space for over a decade now. And it is tremendously amazing. I agree with you 100%. Well, yeah. I can't believe that I'm saying this because the time's gone by so fast, but Addison, we're in the last few minutes. Is there anything I haven't asked you that you want to share with my listening audience today before I let you go?
I guess I would do the 30-second plug of what Incisive is, just to make sure. We are a network of labs, so we're really clear to say we aren't one. We want to find labs that are really dedicated to whatever product and workflow you're looking for. So whether it's digital dentures, or whether it's full arch, or it's ortho, or it's cosmetics, we have individual labs within our network that specialize in those products. And we think if we can match up dentists with the right labs, with the right workflows, with the right partners, and then provide you that capital equipment where you get a free Trios, you get a free iCam from us, that unlocks your growth engine. And so to your point at the beginning of this, no longer does someone have to think, well, how many arches am I doing a month? And what's my ROI on bringing in an iCam? We work with practices that do 1 arch a month. We work with practices that do 1 arch a quarter that want an iCam. And we allow for all lab spend to meet that minimum. Meaning, if you've got a really productive crown and bridge office and you're starting your full arch journey, start it the right way, which is doing it digitally and efficiently. And that is what we see allows practices to quickly go from, all right, we're doing 1, maybe 2 arches a month, to 5, 6, 7, 8, because they've gotten those good workflows, the efficiencies of scale, without having to fight the battle to get there. We can just sort of help you jump the fence, if you will.
Love it. And how do people get in contact with Incisive if they're interested in getting more information?
So you can go to joinincisive.com. You can get in contact with us there. You can also reach out to your Neodent rep. We work very closely with them. And then finally, you can always text or call 617-402-5786. And that is our sales line. And you'd get either me or Tyler, our head of sales, and we'll have a conversation.
Perfect. And we'll make sure all that gets in the show notes. My guest today on the Tooth Sleuth podcast has been Addison Freeman, the founder of Incisive Dental. Thank you so much for the conversation and for your time. Appreciate you.
Greg, thanks for having me on. Appreciate you.
If you need help with converting lead calls into consultations, closing consults into more full arch cases, or creating a more strategic marketing message and branding for your practice or group, follow me for more tips or reach out to G&A Consult for a discovery call today.